everybody. We are on episode 3 of the Philly Culture Podcast. I am Tadja Morris, the founder of Sisters with the Agenda. We have our guest here tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Fadila of Dinkish. I am a designer and artist and have a clothing line that features a combination of the two, art collaborated with this custom designs.
And I am Kaima Akbar, your great real estate agent and also founder and owner of Urban Queens. Yes, so I'm super excited for this episode too. Philly Culture Podcast is here to talk about how our upbringing in Philly has birthed our hustle. So there are so many phenomenal things happening in the city of Philadelphia, and we just want to shine light on all of the great things. So we have our artist here with us, our artist, our creator. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing in Philly and how you kind of got into the art world.
Okay, so I'm technically from South Philly. I lived there until I was 7 years old. I kind of grew up in the South Philly culture, and I went to private school.
Okay.
So from there to, I lived out of state in North Carolina, and then I came back quite often. We kind of bounced back and forth because the South was beautiful and peaceful, but it didn't give me that oomph like Philly did. Right. Yeah, right. And so I would go literally back and forth every other school year sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And I really just, I couldn't be away from it because I felt like being down there, it was slow and mellow, but it didn't offer the city, the culture, the community that I got from Philly, that I grew up in, from whether it be private school or blackouts and on the street in South Philly, and all the parents and the kids out in pajamas and playing double dutch at night. And I've been an artist since I was very young. Like I probably was in advanced art class by 10 years old, in the 5th grade.
Right.
And so it was always like kind of my escape, art and journaling. Sketching. Sketching. I would get a magazine and see a picture of whoever, Faith Evans. I remember that one stands out, and just different ones, and I would just draw it. Like if I can get it to look exactly like that freehand, then I can, master portraits. I kind of I ventured from art and added on design because I would sketch out these clothing items. I just felt like I didn't want to look like everybody else. And so I would do a lot of sketching. In the midst of that, I would, my stepmom gave me a sewing machine one day. She's like, hey, I got a sewing machine. I don't use it. You can have it. And I figured out how, YouTube wasn't popular like it is now. So I had to kind of, yeah, it was still in the box, but there was no instructions. So I kind of like had to figure it out. And it was just like, I remember sketching out, which I still have a picture of, ironically, my first design at 16, and I sketched it out, and I was like, I have to make this look like the picture. And then it was, that's how I birthed the combination of the two. The art was already in me. The designing was stemmed from me being an artist who wanted to create these looks that I would draw, and I said, I have to figure this out.
So tell us a little bit about like growing up in South Philly. Last week we talked about North Philly in our last episode, and I feel like every I'm from Uptown, so I'm a Germantown girl. I feel like every part of the city has a different type of culture. We have different people that come from different parts of the city, and you get different type of vibes and different experiences.
Okay, so I'm kind of from everywhere. like I said, I lived in South Philly till I was 7. Yeah, I lived in another state, so people say, but I'm literally from everywhere in Philly. Like I lived in South Philly till I was 7. I moved to North Philly for a year. My dad, my whole dad's paternal side of the family is from North, so I spent a lot of time there. When I was in North, no matter where we lived in the city, we was always in North Philly because that's where my family was, right? South Philly is like, I started going back to South Philly a lot as a young adult because I had my college friends who was from South Philly, and it reminded me of the community that I grew up in. So I kind of like craved it. I would drive by every time I went there in my same block and say, I live there, like a tape recorder.
Yeah,
I just live right
I
there.
still
Oh, look
do
at
that
Mr.
now
Keith
in my
and his
North Philly
motorcycle.
house.
Yes, because it just all the memories and
yes.
to me it kind of connects you with who you are now,
Right,
remembering
yes,
where you came from.
And it was just a different day and age back then.
For sure.
Than it is now. We got a lot of, culture from right within our communities.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much were a part of it. You know,
for
helped
sure.
cultivate it. So.
Right. I lived in. My dad, at some point after he left North, we moved to 11th and Godfrey.
Okay.
So we lived there.
Logan. Where'd you go there?
No, that's
East Oakland.
East Oakland.
Okay.
Yeah, that's East Oakland. So I lived there. It's just houses there. It's not really. I wouldn't say that I explored living uptown.
Yeah.
From that interaction, I explored Fern Rock Station and home, Fern Rock train station, my house.
It's
but
not the same.
At all.
Right, with being in it,
Right. And then as an older adult, I spent like probably about 7 to 8 years in West Philly.
Okay.
So there, I was an adult, so I ventured into West Philly. I spent a lot of time in West Philly, and I was always interested in, like you said, what each part of the city. I literally meet people and guess what part of the city they're from.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, and I evaluate everything: their character, their demeanor, their style,
Their
like,
what part of Philly you from? Like,
and
you from
like,
West?
right. It's like, hold on, let me guess. And Philly's so fly,
right,
that every part of the city thinks they're like the flyest.
Right.
Like they put fashion on the map, but to me, each part brought its own. Look that I could appreciate just because I lived everywhere. So, somebody may say I'm from South Philly. Somebody might call me I'm from North Carolina, but I really lived in every part of Philly, unlike most people, and I really feel like it cultivated who I was and prepared me for the world because I knew kind of life outside of like just one part and what that part of the North Philly, South Philly, West Philly, uptown culture brought me. It was just like. Philly's just such a jewel, Philly, Philly gets, whatever names and stigmas that people associate with a stereotype, but Philly is such a jewel. It's so much culture here, it's so much fashion, is so much art.
Yeah.
It's so many, I always say Philly is like walking celebrities. Everybody's a celebrity.
Right.
and I think
like that a little bit. Like,
yeah, and especially me moving into different states, because I lived in Atlanta 4 years of my adulthood, so I could see the difference, and it was just like, I appreciate what you have to offer. It's just not Philly, Philly, I always say Philly is so, and not just to make it all about fashion, but we're on the subject.
That's
what we hear.
Known for our fly.
Yeah,
like,
art and fashion
exactly.
is a big part of Philly.
Yes,
absolutely.
Philly is so Philly's so fly. I feel like it's walking celebrities, and a lot of people, even in Philly, misinterpret what to me that means. It's like, so when people may feel like it represents, non-support or hate or whatever, I just feel like it may be a little misunderstood. Like, I feel like it's so many people, if you were in Beverly Hills and everybody walking around you is A-listers, they're not naturally saying, it's ideal, but they're not, congratulations on your new movie and your show, you just, because you're talking about yours and y'all just exchanging information, right? So you want these, this high level of acknowledgement, but really people internally feel like you. Right. They feel like the moves you're making, they feel like that embodies who they are. They might not know how to articulate that. And I even at one point misinterpret that, but I don't really feel like it was naturally me. I feel like I was buying into the masses and what they say about it. And I just feel like Philly is a bunch of, I always would say, especially when I moved to Atlanta in more recent years, I said, you know what, if Philly branched out, they would just, everybody would be on the map. Like if Philly went to, if people, some people are assigned to stay, right? Because everybody can't move away. My dad is like an advocate of that. Like if everybody moves away, who's here to establish the culture, the community, the change, of the problems that do exist? But if those who, that's not their assignment naturally, venture out and still appreciate where they came from, they would not just put Philly more on a map positivity wise, but they would see who they really are and how much the culture made them.
Right.
Because I always say on a fashion tip, somebody can, and there's nothing against no stores, but a person in Philly could work on a budget and 100% had their whole closet from Rainbow, and they're gonna look like an A-list celebrity.
Look, you gotta say it, Rainbow.
Right.
People be sleeping on it.
Because we have an
You know how
eye
to
for
do it.
things.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I never personally got caught up in that somebody can't dress. That never was my lingo. Like I don't believe that from an artist standpoint. Now we're stepping away from the designer and the stylist.
Right.
As an artist standpoint, I feel like you wear how you feel.
Yep.
And I think people feel like, well, why'd they put? I said the only time you might fumble is if you're trying to be who you're not.
Right.
So you're trying to find your way, and it looks
Right.
like confusion.
Yeah.
But if you, but you can have on different mixed prints and plaids and polka dots and flannels and colors in the wintertime, or earth tones in the summertime, and that's how you're feeling, or all black 24/7. But that's how you feel. It's not always a sadness in black, and sometimes it's an elegance and an empowerment and a uniform that so people don't figure you out. And I feel like all that to me is style, and Philly has a lot of that.
Yeah.
Philly has a lot of variety of that.
Yes, I agree.
And it's definitely, I think that was like the beauty of us doing the Philly Culture Podcast, because I'm just like, there's so many A-list to me.
Yeah.
A-list
Right.
people,
Mhm.
you know, my father being, I feel
One
like
of
he's
them.
an icon.
Right, for sure.
I remember when they
sure.
did the, I think it was the We Are the Culture photo down at the art museum.
Mhm.
And it was like the whole art museum stuff was covered with different people in Philly who are doing arts or
nice.
some type
Okay.
of creative. My dad was spotlight
Nice.
in
Yeah.
the picture.
I know
He earned his
that's
side
right.
stripes for sure.
Yeah.
He paved the way so he ran.
got
I mean, he
it
ran
right.
so a lot of people could walk or cross
Yeah.
so he could
Right,
run.
right.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, my father is the artist behind House of Raouf, which he has many different names, many different lanes that he has did this work in. But as we're talking about art and fashion, is the House of
Right,
Raouf
yeah. Totally.
brand, and to me, it just also just spoke to the different layers of people in different generations. We also
Right.
talked about that, the different generations, but just art in general. Like I say I'm from like 32nd and Market, where that was the art district for a long, long time. That's so funny that right now we're in the Philly Rec Center down at the, what is this, the Fashion District.
Yes, the fashion district.
Right.
Yeah,
the
the
gallery, y'all.
The
Right.
gallery back in the day, but the fact that it's called the Fashion
Fashion
District,
Yes.
right
you
now,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Right.
It's because at the end of the day, this was where fashion was birthed.
Right,
Like this is
exactly.
where we came
How about that?
to get our
Yeah,
clothes, to get our art, to get our styling, and now they just elevated, right? And this
Right.
is again a black-owned space, creating space for creators.
Yes.
So shout out to
Yes.
Brett Philly
Yes, shout
for
out to
putting
Brett
on for
Philly.
the creators. But I just think that just that mindset behind it, because there is so many people that need spaces to birth their artwork. Right, but
definitely.
just like the different people that I was around was just amazing. And my father was actually just talking about, he went to, I forgot the Alfie. He's a jazz artist, but he was like, literally, Tangent, the whole building was filled with Philly celebrities. Like,
wow.
you know what I'm saying? 'Cause like you
Nice.
said, that mindset of celebrities. My mom's like
Right.
Philly celebrities, because there's from
It's so
music
many.
to art.
It's so
to
many.
so
Yeah,
much
so
here.
many.
Different people that
yeah.
have done so many different things with people outside the city. And I
Right.
remember a friend said to me, she was like, if you go to any state, Philly gonna stand out, and we can hustle better than anybody else. Right? So it's crazy that we're talking about the birth of your hustle, because our hustle and our grind is different. And you talked about Atlanta and how so many people, you know, want to go to Atlanta. That's where they feel like it's the black, you know,
Black Hollywood.
Black
Right,
Hollywood, right?
Exactly.
But at the essence of it, it's like you're going to miss the culture of it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the limited mindset is like you miss, you know, what you're used to, but it's really that culture that is just a part of you, and it's just like, it's different from the way that we dress to the way that we operate to the things that we eat. Because I know that was that was a big
I miss
part
Philly
of
food
it.
when I left so
you
bad.
Really? Wow, I can't imagine.
I miss Philly food. Yeah, I miss Philly food bad. It
What was
just
the
like-
things in Philly that you missed the food?
Definitely the cheesesteak, obviously, but it would be other things that's gems like fish hoagies and hoagies
Turkey
and
bacon. Now you
turkey
find-
bacon. They don't sell turkey products.
Down
Turkey
south,
bacon
you
and
gotta make sure you're in the right place.
yeah, and just a,
yeah.
a soft pretzel. Yeah,
My mom thought I
Or
was
beef
crazy.
or halal beef bacon too.
Yeah.
But then they go ahead regular bacon.
no, for sure, for
Pizza
sure.
pretzels.
Oh, yeah.
Water
yeah,
ice,
okay.
and even though
Water ice.
it might have been a
We
couple
take
of
that for
spots, there's a
granted.
Rita's down there. It's still you got to drive to Smyrna, so far away. To,
Rita is
Rita's
not.
it's
Philly.
not.
Water
No, that's
ice.
not Philly. That's just if you craving a little
Yeah.
cold flavor,
Right.
something. That's the closest you going to get.
Okay.
But is Philly? Dave's from Philly. Dave's
Okay.
cheesesteak in Philly.
Okay.
He had water ice.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
He
going
was
to
in
big now.
Atlanta.
He's still
Yeah,
there.
okay,
He's married
yeah, I
to
saw
or
him.
engaged to Slutty Vegan.
Okay.
Oh,
And
that's
that's yeah, he's
okay.
from Philly, and he
Yeah.
has a whole huge
Cheesesteak chain, right,
yeah,
yeah, I
chain. He
follow
started.
him,
It was
yeah.
small, next to a gas station because that's where we would get our
Them
fix of
cheesesteaks
cheesesteaks
look
to water
good.
ice. So good, cheesesteak to water ice, and then he got an even bigger location. But it's like you can take a person out of Philly, and that's the essence of you can't.
Right.
When we go,
The
we
hustle.
go.
Yeah.
We go like to the moon
Yep.
because we had to, like you said, I get every culture or a lot of inner city communities had to do what they had to do, but we are hustlers.
Yep.
And it's not a bad thing. It's not like you a hustler to no end. We feel good when we do it. We
Yep.
feel good. You know, I just started, even speaking for myself, taking it back old school with I can vend. I do vend and everything. I have an online presence. I know how to do product placements with celebrities and influencers so well I could write an ebook on it, and I probably ultimately will. But that was me figuring it out. That was me feeling my way
Yourself,
through
right.
because it was what I already had in me. Is that you know what these are the Oh, you know a big thing. Sidebar. That Philly represents the hustle that you don't get. You get in Philly, and it doesn't happen everywhere, but you could take that version of you anywhere. Even things like
Right.
Philly selling platters out your house.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have to cook that well. I eat some of the food that people sell. You don't even have to cook that well, but you hustling, and then you like $10 a platter, and now you just not even trying to necessarily make a career out of
Yeah.
it, but you got an additional $500 to $2,000 a month
Right.
out of your kitchen, and you still working 9 to 5. You just do that
Yeah.
on the weekends and spread the word, or you like, I sell dinners,
Yeah.
and that type of hustle goes with everything. So to me, that same thing, which is ultimately we started me in fashion. It was like, I don't have my when I was here, I was in Philly. My mom moved to North Carolina after they divorced. When it was here, it was just like. My dad sacrificed a lot of his years working at Claire Muhammad, which is a Muslim school in Philadelphia. And so financially, I couldn't move like I wanted to or get the things I wanted. That's why I taught myself to. So it's like, I'm not going to keep showing up at the Eve feeling like I'm about to die because I get told right before that I don't got it. It's like, where I'm trying to call my aunts and stuff and, like, can you, and I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to sew. And that's when I made my first dress. And then, I took that to closer to my senior year. I'm back in North Carolina, and, my mom has a lot of children, and she can't move the way that she wants to. And so I say, I'm going to work with what I have. So I started tie-dyeing jeans. I started painting on my shirts, on my sweatshirts, like things that I had.
Right.
I was, rehabbing or revamping it.
Yep.
And I took that to... That was senior year. Once I graduated, I was at school. I couldn't move the way I want. My parents' circumstances at that time was the same. So I started. I started working at Mesquite. Yeah, I was one of the artists at Mesquite. Mesquite was like, I think they might have been.
I know you worked for them.
Yeah, I was one of the artists.
Where were they at that time?
I started with them when they were on Cater Street. So
Okay.
they were on Cater Street, and then they moved to 11th and Market. And I, at that time, was the youngest artist there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was one of two females when I first came. I was one of two female artists, and I was the youngest. But it was like, they definitely enhanced my craft, but it was like, this is what I do. I'm right amongst my people.
Yeah.
And it never was a job. It was always, I aspire, I aspire, God willing, when it's my time to have my crew and my team and my company to create a similar atmosphere because it never was going to work. I mean, You talking about artists all around. Everybody know
Right.
people, each other's
Creative people,
situation. There's no
right.
judgment or care to share it. It's music, radio in the middle of the thing. It's,
Right.
I might be painting and then stop and do ballet twirls in the middle of the floor, and everybody like, she crazy as crap. But then we just go on.
Right.
That's actually where me and my former husband met
Okay.
at Mesquite. We were both artists there.
Mesquite is like the Coogis of New York. Okay, so
Yes.
you don't know who Mesquite is.
Yes.
Go check them out, and they're still doing stuff. I was
No,
actually,
Mesquite just is back. They just
I
came
was
back.
just telling somebody we were doing something with my students at University of Penn, and we were doing artwork, and I told this lady, she was like, I don't really, I said, girl, that's like Mesquite, and I was like, you better look it up, but she wasn't from Philly, so she
Yeah,
didn't
she
know.
didn't know
And
that
then the
far
other guy
out,
was like,
right.
you don't know Mesquite, you better know
Right.
Mesquite, you know.
Right.
So that's crazy because I didn't know they had female
People,
artists. I just
right,
thought it was the three of them.
right.
It ended up being three. I don't know what happened once they moved to Jersey. That's like when they split out. That part don't count. Shout out to them. But that's when they split, and then Mesquite started, ventured into Mizan,
Mm-hmm.
and then the title and the tag got taken over,
right.
and now they're back with Mesquite. They brought their rights back and everything. Ironically, how things come full circle is when I was at the same school I mentioned, Claire Muhammad in West Philly. I would just be sitting at my desk drawing all the time. The teacher of teaching, I'm just sitting there drawing the students' backs, the teacher at the board, and Kenya, who is I knew Ken since I was 14, same guy, same person, always been the same. I was, he knew me from drawing, so when I'm at college, I'm at Cheney, and me and a friend went down to Mesquite, like, we know somebody who said y'all hiring, can we get a job? And they were like, no. And I saw Ken. I didn't even know he was one of the founders. I didn't know the layout. I just knew I was going to this place that was hiring. I didn't care what I did because I needed some money while I was up school. So I'm like, hey, he's like, we're not hiring. We got too many artists as it is. We try to, And so I left. And when I left, I got a phone call. He got somebody else that was there to call me that I knew. And was like, wait, Fadila, artist. Like, I remember she used to be drawing in class.
Right.
Tell her to come back down. I got a job for her as an artist. I was going to sweep floors, board shirts. Didn't really matter. So that was like a full circle moment of me just doing my talent just for, with no anything behind it. Ventured into this, catapulting into that version of my life. Once I got married, I stopped working at Mesquite. It was both of us there. That would have been weird. I was way too familiar with everybody, so it wasn't going to be around a person go home. So at some point, we decided to start our own company. Yeah. I did a shirt for a cousin, and then it was hot. And I was like, we both did it. Me and my former husband was like, that thing is hot. And then I was just in my room brainstorming. I said, we got to come out with a line. We have to come out with a line where the images of the people represent the people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you chilling with your sweatshirt and your crew neck or whatever, you could chill, you could wear it with jeans, sweatpants, whatever, because the person on your shirt is dressed for you. And so that's how that venture, we took that to Atlanta. That was a part of us moving to Atlanta, but it was the hustle from us being who we are from Philly that made us achieve some of the things that we did in Atlanta. Because people feel like you move to Atlanta and you get saved. It doesn't really go like that because everybody will go to Atlanta. You get more bang for your buck. That's it with housing, but everybody will go and blow up. You got to take that same hustle that you had here when you was lacking, or you was driven, or you was determined, or you didn't have and you had to figure out. And you got to take that where you go because that's in you. That's not a part of whatever state you live in. That same thing you think you could get from Atlanta, you get from LA, DC, Texas, Philly, New York, Jersey. Well, that same thing from Philly that's in you. You can take it anywhere. And you always got to kind of come back home mentally and know that that's what's already in you. That's who you are. That's who you've been birthed to be.
So talk about a couple of the projects that you worked on for your business.
Okay.
And then talk about where are we going next?
Okay. So with Dinkish, initially, like I said, how I started making myself things, it kind of ventured into me having a full clothing line for women, like modest clothing. I never called it a Muslim line because it wasn't to me. It was like, I'm Muslim and I'm modeling a lot of the things, but it's not a Muslim line. I definitely had other people buy it. It was for other people. I would be in Atlanta trying to do product placement with my hand-painted shirts, and they would say, no, I want that dress you have on. What designer made that? And it's like, okay, but so I did that for, I would say, about a strong 8 years under the name Dinkish. And then I burnt myself out, to be honest. I made thousands of items, literally, and people thought I had a manufacturer team. I've never had one person help me
really?
make anything, and I don't think it's cute. I'm not saying it like
Yeah,
it's a
that's
brag
lot.
card, and that was
Right.
while maintaining children and
Oh,
marriage.
wow.
So I probably rolled that course a little longer than
Right.
on the same momentum, and it just got started feeling like a hamster on a wheel. I was like, I'm more talented than this.
Yeah.
I'm more gifted than this, and I'm gonna leave this here for the time being. And I would do the hand painted people that we did with our brand Patrimony. I brought the women over to Dinkish. I would do the hand painted women, which I was nervous about initially because I didn't want it to take away from Patrimony. Then I was reminded, hey, Ralph Lauren got Chaps, Purple Label, Polo, all of that under one brand. They all got the collared shirts. They all got buttoned down, so you don't worry about that.
Yeah,
So
I
I brought that over too, and I would do hand painted like sweatshirts and dresses, and I would reach out to different people like who I think got funky styles too, like Khalees or whoever, and I say, I want to see you one, and they say okay, and give me their address, and I'm like, I think you sleeping on yourself when it comes to the art blended with the clothing.
Right.
So and that was like I got so much joy. It was no hamster on the wheel. I didn't feel like I was working in a factory. It was like I was creating. I got setting the ambiance, my candles, my incense, and my and I'm blanking out. Right. So I said, you know what? It's time to part ways with the women's modest clothing, and that's when I did the hand painted splash shirts.
Okay.
I had to start simple, with it simple but very creative, and I added men. So those are unisex, and it's like, okay, men, I got something for y'all. Right now, the men been trying to get me to do men's stuff for years. They've been trying to get me that. I never really wanted that extra interaction with the guys. It was like, hey, buy your wife, buy your girlfriend, buy your mom, buy something of the women thing. But then it was just like, no, later for that. The market is there. They deserve that too. They've been supporting me morally or however. Be like, sis, I see you killing it. I'm like, let me give them something too that will bring back, for me, doing the splash paint, hand painted hoodies that I'm really focusing on a lot of right now. It's bringing back, making it fun to get dressed again. Where everybody, to me, we're so much thorougher than venturing into these big labels that don't give a freak about us, the Louis and the Gucci's and shit about it. Yeah, like shout out if you want to wear that, but there's so many other brands that offer versatility, that offer
quality,
a story, quality, like I'd rather support a person than I support a big brand anyway if I'm gonna get to say a good quality. And it was just like, hey, remember we used to get dressed? Remember that's what we about? Remember, look at all these splashes in this shirt. What color sneaks you gonna wear? And that's how I would say it to guys. So I'm like, who gonna trick that out like you? Who gonna trick with the tricky shotty? Glasses and the tortoise shell.
Philly, gift for gab. We got a gift for gab.
No,
we will
for
make
sure.
you like really think about it. Like, how you gonna freak that out?
Right, no, and that's what I was saying. Like, who gonna get you gonna wear the tricky tortoise shell shotties? Because I know that's you with the sneakers, and I know you got some tricky sneakers. Look at pick up on the colors that you got on there. Who gonna do that like you? And they're one of one, which has always been a part of my brand.
The uniqueness.
Yes, I've always specialized in one of one because I always used to say, before I even foresee myself venturing into having a line, since I was younger, I used to say, when I get the kind of money that I have, I'm going to shop at like exclusive shops in Paris and different places because I don't like wearing what other people have. So I wanted to only be a few of each item. So I'm like, you can create that. You can do that for people and make it accessible. They get to feel like they get to remember. To me, it's part of my assignment. Like here on Earth, it's deeper than just money. I really don't like attention at all. Like if I could wear a mask and like just see the success of the brand and nobody knows who's behind it, that's ideal for me. But it would be like for me, it's reminding people that we're individuals and do not get entrapped in this robotic mindset that they have tried to make us have. We are individuals. You see your shirt? You the only one that got it on. How you gonna rock it? You know. You see that hoodie? That's you. So even if you're not conscious of it when you purchase it, guys might feel a little bullied into a buy. Or I'm gonna support you when they have it on. I know it's no doubt. Whether it's people saying, what's that you got on? Or who made that? Or whatever. Or the moment they picking out what sneakers they going to have and they can't even reference it from a friend having it or go online to see it, to see what it can be paired with. It's reminding them, how do you want to feel today?
Right.
How do you want to look?
And that's definitely
Yes.
Philly. You know, we can follow trends, but we also like to be trendsetters.
Right.
For sure.
We love to
Take the
roll up
trend.
to school to say, I did it first.
Yes. We're the original Soldier Boy.
Right.
Yes, I did it first.
Like, I was the first
okay?
to do it. Who did?
You know, or I'm going to
Yeah.
do it this way.
Right,
She will
right.
do
Or
it
my
that
man
way.
did it. You see, he been killing that since back in the day. That's
Yeah.
us. Like, with things, because again, we got so much talent, so much richness and
Yes.
purity. To me, is almost intentional to overshadow it with the killings and stuff. Unfortunately, praying that away, and with activeness and things like what you guys are doing with bringing
Right.
attention to the culture of Philly, is so much rich and purity here that is enough for everybody to eat, is enough for everybody to shine, is enough to support in each other, to become a fad,
Right.
you know, to be like, no, is enough for all of us to do our part and make a collective difference, and without a hardship. We get those things placed on our heart. It's like, that's what you're
Right.
supposed to do.
Right.
You know what, I should, you know, how you mentioned, I should call this business and just see, like, bring them up here. It's okay if they don't have a space. It's
Right.
okay if they're not, you know, in a store. Let me just bring them to my platform and highlight what they do. And that's like, and then that's reciprocated. I naturally feel like, let me send some people their way who I know are established, and let people know what they have going on, because that type of stuff is contagious. But that's, I feel like, our true essence. That's what
Yes,
happened
that unity.
before the corruptions of that they tried to make us
Coming
think always
together.
was us.
Yeah.
It's definitely unity. It's definitely brotherly love, sisterly love, as our
Yeah.
sister put us on last week.
Sisterly affection.
Oh,
Yes.
sisterly affection.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
but I think that's the beauty of what we're doing, because we definitely have supporters. That's how a lot of brands build their clientele. It's definitely support. We back each
Yeah,
other.
look at you. You've been texting me. We got this person. We got this. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up.
Listen, Philly Culture Podcast.
They
right?
is on
Okay.
it. They trying to get
Yes.
on.
I was
So,
excited.
The support is definitely here.
And I appreciate it. Like,
Yes.
we don't know each other from a can of paint, but you can always just reach out. And again, it's to put your city on. When you represent for Philly, it's like, oh, why not?
Right.
Why not?
Right.
So go ahead and drop your information. Let them know how they can find you, connect with you, purchase your products.
Okay, so I'm on Instagram under Instagram and TikTok now under Dinkish, DINKISH_. I have a website, www.dinkish.com. That link is also in my bio, where you can purchase online. On Instagram, I post sometimes one of one. Sometimes I might just see a piece and feel inspired to purchase a leather jacket and paint it and say, this is a ready-made size medium. If it's yours and you like it, you can click the link, or you can text this number and purchase it. And that's how you can find me. I look forward to connecting with all of you.
Yes.
You know, and the vibes and the brand connected. I mean, the person, or the energy connected with the brand.
Yes. Well, we thank
Yes,
you. We
thank
appreciate
you.
you
Thank
for coming
you.
to rock with the Philly Culture Podcast. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor Podcasts. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.